Hey guys, welcome to Gray, the podcast for those of us who are navigating this complicated world of military life alongside our partners. If you're looking for real conversations, genuine insights, and a community of seasoned mil spouses dedicated to supporting each other through every challenge, especially those WTF moments, and maybe even find a silver lining along the way, here we are. We're going to get real about the highs and lows of military life, share stories, and have candid conversations as we laugh our way through it all. This isn't just a podcast. It's a sanctuary where we can all find connection, strength, and the courage to be ourselves, no matter where the journey takes us. Grab your headphones and settle into our corner of the internet where you're not alone. Let's gather at Gray.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Gray. Today on Gather at Gray, we are in the first week of the new administration. And as many of you who follow the news and follow print news and regular news, there have been a flurry of executive orders that have come down the pike very quickly. A lot of noise out there. And so today we wanted to focus on a couple of them that we believe are affecting the military community and specifically military spouses and military spouse employment, and how that is potentially going to trickle down to the broader military initiative and readiness for our forces. Tanya?
Hey, guys. So as always, we like to make sure that we're sharing great resources and information with you guys. So today we have brought in Jennifer Barnhill to join us as we have this conversation and kind of explore what this may look like, because this is very much a conversation, a situation that is developing and ongoing, right? So we don't have definite answers. We're recording on Friday, you guys. By the time you're listening to this on Tuesday, things will, I was going to say could have already shifted, but some things will have already shifted. Some more information comes in. So we're excited to have Jennifer Barnhill join us today. She's a Navy spouse. She is the host of Military Dinner Table Conversations, a 2023 Bush Institute Stand 2 Veteran Leadership Program Scholar. You guys, this is a lot, and you should know that my voice is like feeling a little shaky today, so I apologize. She's basically a badass. A reporter
Total
for
badass.
Military. Total badass. A reporter for Military.com, editor-in-chief of the National Military Spouse Network's Career Connections magazine, and the Military Spouse Liaison on the League of Wives Project. Jennifer, thank you so much for sharing time with us today. We are so grateful to have you.
Thanks for
Jennifer, I
having me.
think that we mentioned you in episode 2
Oh, yeah?
when you were at the Military Influencer Conference. So here you are.
Yeah. It was nice to get to put some faces to virtual names at MIC. That was awesome. So glad I have already been on the podcast. So are we going to be done now? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. And we're done. No.
And we're done.
You're out.
So we brought Jennifer on today because we do see her as a very informed individual in this space who is on both sides of these types of issues. So she's not only researching and writing about these, but she's also living them as a military spouse. And as you know, for those of you who continue to keep up with resources and all of our episodes, that is the mission of Gray and why we gather at Gray. So Jennifer, we want to give you space first. We don't have a ton of questions because we want to listen. And as you all know, once we listen, we get fired up. So we want to give you space to help our listeners better understand the executive orders and the relevance to military spouses, with specifically leaning into the negation of DEI initiatives as well as the remote work, and how that specifically may affect military spouses all over the world, not just those stationed in the United States, but for those who may not have a broader understanding of where the military is in the world. We have families in, I don't even know how many countries, but all of these initiatives and all of these executive orders would extend and trickle down to them. So Jennifer, help us understand.
Well, I mean, it's a lot, right? I think that the first thing I want to do is to just acknowledge that this is a lot. It feels overwhelming, and the community needs to know that there are people who are listening reporters like myself, others that are here to hear what you're saying or your concerns. But just a real quick overview of some of the things that we are dealing with right now. I'm going to primarily focus on the return to work executive order, which it has a very significant and possibly immediate impact, not only on military spouses, but like on the financial readiness of our force. Like this is a readiness conversation in a way that I think that sometimes we make conversations, we frame them as military spouse conversations, but this is financial impacts. And I also want to say that this is not new. Every administration comes in and has executive orders. They do things quickly. They do things they will have this kind of bar. They want to do as much as they can in the first 100 days. So it feels very fast and furious. But this, unlike maybe previous administrations, this has a very significant impact on our community because of the fact that military spouses are highly mobile. We have roughly 20% unemployment for half a century. Okay. It has been half a century that this has been the number.
Whoa.
Yes.
Yeah.
Half a century is the 70s. So it's not, that's long ago, right?
Time check.
So context, half a century is the 70s. So it has been a long time since the all-volunteer force has been dealing with the military spouse unemployment. But in today's day and age, with a 2-income norm, this will be felt. This is not necessarily on the agenda, I think, of anyone. I don't think anyone is looking to say this of the second order effects, but we are in this community that is feeling the second order effects. I think that everyone can agree that streamlining government, fixing things, that's great. This is something that will have a negative impact on military spouses because for a very long time, we pointed military spouses to federal hiring. We said that this was an opportunity for them to remain employed through PCS moves. And then when the advent of telework opened additional pathways for us to retain our jobs. And so I don't necessarily think it is in the mind that this is happening. I don't think that is a concern. Like, for example, I think that there's this idea that there are workers who are sitting 10 miles away from their offices who could just want to be in their pajamas, don't want to go into work. And the reality is, if someone has a job as a military spouse, they cannot go to California if they live in Florida. They can't just show up to work next week. It's just not a possibility. And so I think that what we don't know is if there will be exceptions. And so right now, what we do know is there is a mandate from the Office of Personnel Management, OPM, to have each agency create its own updated policy on remote and telework. And that's due by 5 p.m. Eastern today when we're recording this on Friday. So theoretically, we might know more today, but it's really fast turnaround. It's actually, I'm not saying unprecedented, but it's a very quick turnaround for all that's being asked. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and Jennifer, with that turnaround, so like you said, a lot of military spouses, a lot of even like GS spouses, right? Because that's living overseas. That's what we run into a lot. It's like GS people who have their spouses there, and then they're in the same boat as us, but not because they're anyway. All very, but so a lot of them are also in the federal workspace, and so there's been some talk about how even with that 5 p.m. deadline, that's not necessarily final answers. That's just like we're working on answers. So it kind of feels like there's the potential for everyone affected to kind of be living in this in between as it's figured out. And like you said, the financial readiness and downstream effects of that are really intense because, as I'm sure a lot of you guys know, here in the military spouse realm, the other large conversation that's happening right now outside of the executive orders is what's going on with moves, right? So these people who are hoping to hold on to their jobs as they move to be able to fund their moves because like it's a whole web effect, right?
Yeah. There's a lot going on in our community right now. There's TRICARE issues. There's the contract with the PCS moves having disruptions and people not knowing what reimbursements they're going to get. They're told one thing, then they get another one. Um, this, I mean, we've said this again and again, but like, if your experience in the military is one of constant struggle with no reprieve, you are going to have word of mouth marketing, right? This is going to go outside of this community. And so I think that it is important for any administration to take this very seriously. I think that we want, theoretically, we all want the military to be strong and ready to turn around and do its job. And so this is part of that. And so I think we can all agree that like when we underlying issue here is a lack of understanding of the second order effects because we don't exist as a population really in people's minds. We are the folded flags, we are the welcome home signs, but we don't go much further than that. The American public doesn't really know who we are and what unique struggles we face. So I think this is an opportunity to possibly educate people about how this impacts us. And people meaning our neighbors, that means our legislators, whatever side of the aisle, because guess what? The readiness is impacted and they have to care about that. They care about that. Even if they don't care about the other things that you might care about, your elected officials need to have a ready military. And that I think is the conversation. And this impacts readiness.
So with that in mind, how do we do that? How do we make sure that our voices are getting heard and that we're getting to share our stories and our experiences?
Well, there's many pathways because people are doing this work. So I'm a reporter. You can reach out to me. There's times when you might just be able to reach out to another organization that's advocating for military families. There's a lot of military service organizations out there who are doing this work. They're working with our leaders. So you don't even have to go directly to the leaders, but you can also go directly to your congressperson, your senator, reach out to their office, share your story, because I don't think that this was a known byproduct of this decision. I think that if there was more time to analyze, added in, they would have said, oh my goodness, we didn't think about that. And I would like to think that that's the case. And I think that there's many leaders on either side of the aisle who agree that it's important to help military spouses work. Like, we want the ability to work, right? That's it. We're trying to be in the workforce. We're trying to contribute to American society and to our families. So reach out to your representatives, reach out to me, reach out to different organizations. There's so many places you can go. And just so you know, there are people who are already doing this work. They are advocating on your behalf. I'm in the middle of writing a story about this. I'm working with other media, civilian media outlets as well to share and push military spouses to them so that they have a place to share at the national level. So and that's just the media side. There are people on the policy side, other people, working it. They are not forgetting you. These organizations know you're here and they care about you and they want to hear from you. If you're hurting, they want to hear about it.
Well, I want just listening to all of this and keeping up. We do try to stay very informed across the board and ingest many versions and opinions of these types of things. But I also want to highlight that this can't help the recruiting crisis. We already have a recruiting crisis. We're continuously talking about it with our military force. We already were down to under 1% of the national population who were serving. And now we have a further recruiting crisis. And there's other opinions, many, many opinions on why this is the case. You highlighting, which during being a military spouse with an active duty partner, I saw this firsthand. Most families are two-income families now. that was not the norm previously in military service. It was the service member was the provider. This day and age with inflation and cost of living and quite honestly, gumption of wanting to do something else, most of these families are now 2-income families, 2-career families. I want to highlight that as well. It's not just about the income. It's also about the purpose. It's also about the career. But when you're faced with these types of decisions as a family unit and whether or not the spouse gets to keep their quality of life and keep their job while going through the extra struggles, I'm trying to be very kind here, while going through the extra struggles of what is required of them as a military family, people are going to walk away. Like, let's call a spade a spade. More people are going to walk away or choose that this is not for them any longer because you're also taking away the additional manner with how they support their family, their additional manner with a purpose for their family, if you want to think through some of the trickle-down effects here.
Yeah. Well, here's what I would say to that. And this is a visceral reaction to what you just said. This is not like a reported or anything else. Our military needs diversity. Hold on tight. Do not abandon this place. We need each and every one of us together to do this. It is leaving for your family. Of course, you make the family choice that's right for your family. But contrary to what we hear, the diversity of our force brings us together. It is the thing that unites our country. It is the message that our country puts out. We are many that come together as one. Our military is that for our nation. Because right now, our nation is not unified. And our military has the potential to be representative of we are a cross-section. Right now, we are a cross-section of our country. Like, there are different races, genders, sexual orientation, everything. We represent a lot of people coming from different places in the country. And a homogeneous military is a dangerous military. And so I think that it is very important for people who are kind of struggling right now to remember that. And I understand that that's asking a lot, right? You're already, kind of maybe being representative of a group of people, a different area of the country, a different race or a different gender. And that's asking a lot. But just remember how important a very diverse and representative military is, because if recruiting suffers, it doesn't mean that recruiting is going to go down uniformly. Who isn't going to come? Who isn't going to join right now? That's what matters. It's not that recruiting is going to necessarily go down. It's that the diversity of recruiting might change. That's an unsafe status for the military. That is not about this administration. It's in general. If we are recruiting only from the left, that's also bad. If we're recruiting only from the right, that's very bad too. So this is not about one particular political party. This is just in general. We have to have a diverse military so that we don't, end up in a place where we have just one agenda,
Yeah. That's a really great call in. Really, it was really calling in more than anything, I think. Jennifer, and a reminder that it is, because Courtney, you're right. Like, there's this entry, especially once you're so far into a career, right? When you hit the point where you could retire, your spouse could retire, you guys could be like, listen, check the deuces, we're done here.
Yeast and chicken grease.
Right. That's it's that struggle and that balance of, if everybody leaves, who's left standing and who is coming in, because people come into rooms where they see themselves represented and where they see themselves present. And so there is value and purpose in standing in this space and remaining in this space. That one, I feel that one, y'all.
It's not easy. It's not easy though. Like, I'm not trying to make that easy. I hope that came across.
No.
Like, that is not an easy choice, and it's a lot to ask.
Yeah. Well, and I think honestly, I think that conversation is one that's happening in a lot of military households and has been happening, right? As our forces and as our families, like you said, Courtney, as we've had more two-income families come into the forces. I can tell you, you guys, I tell you all the time that I'm older than I look, which is a real fun game to play with people. Um, and when Scotty first started this ride, like I was in a group of women. I had a submariner at the time, and women weren't allowed on submarines at the time, right? So all the spouses were women, and there were I think maybe one that were, um, and that has definitely changed. I think that is a change for the better, right? Like you said, Jennifer, it gets into that diversity of opinion, of experience, of just all of that and the value that brings to our community. But as that has happened, you do see people making the decision. I jokingly call it, you see military spouses retiring their spouses. It feels like a kind of badass moment when they're like, babe, I got you. Go ahead and get out that Navy. Um, and we do see more of that. And what does that look like and how do we navigate that? As spouses are having to fight for their roles, their teleworking roles. I know one of the things that I immediately thought of with the return to office, and I'm sure some of you guys may be thinking about this as well, and I'm introducing this without an answer. So just know, like, you guys, I'm not really solving your problem or giving you a solution, but just like being like, I see you. And that's the Domestic Employees Teleworking Overseas agreement that was signed this past April 2024. I know a lot of us were really excited to get to show up at the White House and see that get signed and have these pathways open to not only keep employment here while you're CONUS, but also when you're being stationed overseas. We don't right now, like Jennifer said, agencies are still putting out instruction, developing instruction. We don't know what that's going to look like. We don't know if there's going to be an exception for that, but we do acknowledge you guys and see you guys and know the challenges of that. So I just wanted to say that as well. Oh, that was the other thing. I was like, there was one more thing in my head, and that was, Jennifer, you had said that, like, the second level effects of this hadn't really been considered, and that a lot of them were unintentional, right? And so seeing shifts to that. I was reading an article, I think it was this morning, about the VA and the hiring freeze that was put into place and how there's been an exception made for the VA around that. So that kind of speaks to the same thing that you're saying, right? Is some of these...
Wait, Tanya, I'm sorry. Can I pause you there? I missed that part of it. Would you mind giving, or Jen, one of you give a little bit more explanation there?
Yeah, so there was a federal hiring freeze that was put into place. So it essentially, a lot of people who were in the pipeline for the roles, not just like, so no new positions could be listed.
This week.
Yeah.
This week, yeah.
I didn't realize that was part of the trickle. I knew there was a lot of, we immediately laid off all the DI employees, and we had, I mean, laid off, but, had them go home.
The freeze was a separate order that came out.
Okay.
The hiring freeze was a separate order that came out. And it, again, affected a lot of military families and GS families, right? Because the exception was for national security, and I can't remember what the other exception was. DOD. Thank you, Jennifer. So, but there were people that were like, so the VA was in the midst. We know we have a huge gap in VA providers. And so there were a lot of roles that were listed and that people were beginning to fill. And for a couple of days there, it was kind of like, wait. We've frozen all of these people. We can't onboard our new hires. We can't bring them in. And I saw an article that said that the VA had been added to the exception list. And so they're going to go ahead and fill those roles, which again will affect our population because there's a lot of veteran spouses out there who are caregivers who need that support from the VA and things like that. So I don't think
I had not heard that there was a VA exception, unless that's a recent change, because I've seen people post their own hiring decisions that were terminated, the letters they received saying that their hiring was suspended. Now, again, a lot of this is not new. There is a lot of pauses on things as new administration changed. So just to give everybody an accurate assessment, that does happen.
So really quickly, because I want to fact check, I don't want to put all opinion out there. Yes, it does say yesterday it was declared that the 300,000 healthcare jobs are exempt from the hiring freeze, the federal hiring freeze. So that is also news to me. So we're all learning something along the way here today. See, this is why we have these conversations, because we want to be informed. I want to also go back to Jennifer. You made a point that our lives, our existence, we're an anomaly to most of the American public. Like, people know we exist. People know the military exists, right? Certain incidents throughout the last few years have re-highlighted that, yes, we are in fact real people over here doing these things and supporting our service members and all of this. But on the education front, I have actually lived in a lot of places that were not military heavy as an active duty spouse. And it was very eye-opening to me how disassociated, how there was almost like zero understanding. And that's not even with neighbors, but even with family members, where it's so foreign to have much of your lives directed by the need of the service, if you will, if you want to talk about what readiness means. That was so foreign to an understanding of what I perceive as the average American household who, they stay in one place. Most people don't move. I know. I was thinking about the people I went to high school with. Most of them still live in the vicinity and neighborhood in town that they went to high school with. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying, from a perspective of understanding, empathy and sympathy with regard to how these particular things affect a very large population number. I don't think, what is the number? We talked about it maybe last episode of how many, do we know what the overall military community is, what the number is?
It's like 1% of our nation.
So 3.7 million.
Like our community, yeah.
Million. Its community is around, closer to 4 million individuals. So think about, it's really hard to fathom what 4 million individuals is, like how large that is when you're used to, your street of 100. But when we're talking about issues that are affecting a lot of people, 4 million people is a lot of people. That's a lot of humans that are being affected by this. And the trickle down of civilian employees, federal civilian employees. It's not just military spouses and military families who are feeling the immediate effect of this. It is the whole federal workforce, which I believe will also directly affect the state workforce, right? Because many of them are symbiotic in their relationships.
Yeah. I know we're at time, Jennifer, and I don't want to keep you all day, all morning. I mean, I would love to, but thank you so much for joining us. Guys, I know we have kind of like wandered, brain dumped a lot because there is a lot going on. Feel free, send us emails, gatheratgray@gmail.com. Find us on social, gatheratgray on IG. We're happy to clarify. And even better, I would love for you, if you have a story to tell, if you have, if you want to be connected to other resources, I want to share with you guys Jennifer's contact information as well, because she is a phenomenal person to have in your toolbox of resources. You can find her online. Her Substack is We Serve Too, WESERVETOO.substack.com. She is also on IG at We Serve Too, and you can find her out on LinkedIn, Jennifer Barnhill. We'll make sure that we include those links under the episode notes. We'll share them on IG as well. Be well, you guys. Take care of each other. We got this. Real Style Strong. Hashtag something else really wonderful and beautiful. I don't know. Your girl's out of it.
I
Courtney's
love
giving me
it. Well,
faces.
I also want to call out for Jennifer before we lose her. The military dinner table conversations that she
Yes.
facilitates are worth getting involved in, are worth reading. Her pieces on military.com are great. So outside of contacting her directly, be informed, see what she's writing about, who also is speaking on the topic, and how we can move forward with that. And also, before we peace out, and we want to call out that during this episode, Tanya's doorbell rang,
Yeah.
and we paused so that she could go figure out who in the year of our Lord 2025 was ringing a doorbell, because it could be a serial killer. No, it wasn't. It was her from the military influencer conference from the mighty. She was named one of the Mighty 25, and it was her Mighty 25 trophy.
It was. Also, you guys,
Hello.
thank you. Oh, guys, also, I'd like to point out that I'm Black. If I thought it was a serial killer, y'all know I wasn't going to answer it. I'm on that court. Just saying.
I don't have my Ring doorbell set up yet. Moving back into this house that we live in, which is older, and every time I'm like, "Who's ringing my? Why are you ringing my doorbell? Why?"
But ain't no way. I was going to think it was going to be a serial killer and be like, let me go check that out. No.
In the middle of the day. Crazy things have happened to you. People be stealing your ballots and whatnot.
What? Oh no.
That's a true story, Jennifer. My mail file I got. Anyway. I'll tell you later.
Oh, and also we shared on Insta, and Tanya is actually drinking out of the gray mug, and I have the gray hat on. You're not going to be able to see it because this is all audio. But we do have merch coming, which we're super pumped about because we really are leaning into finding comfort in the chaos. And right now it feels maybe a little more chaos than comfort. But that's the point. That's the point of the community and being able to talk about it and bring these issues forward and have brilliant minds like Jennifer Barnhill on this podcast to be able to speak to us all.
You're so funny. No. Let's just level set this. Every one of us has something to offer this community, and every one of us is doing something to better this community. You are listening to this podcast because you want to learn more or connect. Like, that is important. Like, every single thing. And there's so many people doing this work. Like, don't brilliance. We're just doing what's in front of us, right? That's every day.
Amen. And also, I'm gonna yes and you.
Yes, oh no.
And we will acknowledge the greatness that is you. I think it's. Yes. I mean, I read your bio. I saw it there. I think there's real strength in empowering others, but also in accepting our own empowerment. So we're gonna go ahead and give you your flowers, Jennifer. And again, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It will be okay, everyone. It'll be okay.
We got this. Until next time, guys. Be well. Like I said, we've got some more goodness, and we can't wait to see you guys again the next time we gather at Gray.